everyone listening to this broadcast. While the solar wind roars past landscape into a poem, not just a coordinate. We are 22.9 Earth diameters away from our home, drifting at 0.97 kilometers per second. And the idea that they had to practice this in Icelandic soil before touching a single piece of moon dust is a testament to how much the future of exploration depends on how we speak to the universe.
Scientifically impactful. So this crew is absolutely ready to deliver on the lunar science objectives. And
here's the secret mission Control just admitted while talking to the crew. They aren't just sending us data. They are giving us a live science workshop where the astronauts are trained to be the actual observers, not just passengers watching a show. While we drift at a leisurely 0.97 kilometers/365 kilometers further from the moon than Earth is, the team back home has spent the last few hours role-playing the mission so that when Reed Wiseman or Christina Koch finally see the regolith, they know exactly what to say to make the lunar surface sing with meaning for us. They practiced describing the light on the soil until the words felt like a texture they could touch, turning a rock formation into a story waiting to be told. A feat of communication that happens in those 0.99 seconds of signal delay before Houston hears what the crew sees in that vast, silent cabin. The solar wind is now a slightly stiffer breeze at 576 kilometers SALs, a small reminder that the universe is still moving around us, but inside the ship. The only thing that matters is how well the crew can translate the light into words that will make you feel goosebumps on your own planet.
They're experiencing. And for parts of the flyby, we'll actually be able to go on board with them with that camera you guys have been seeing.
It is a profound irony that the most scientifically impactful thing we are about to do isn't firing a rocket, but rather gathering these four minds together to synthesize a vision that no camera could ever replicate on its own. Mission Control just told us they have spent days simulating these interactions, building bridges between the raw data they gather in the field and the deep questions that only human curiosity can ask. Commander Reed Wiseman is likely already feeling that surge of energy described as four brains on the discussion, knowing that tonight's group conference will be the real work, where they don't just collect pixels but construct a shared story that spans the almost 1 second signal delay back to Houston. While the solar wind rips past at 576 kilometers per second, a gentle storm in KP2 conditions, the crew inside is preparing to let their eyes do the work, hunting for those nuances in the lunar landscape that only a human eye can spot in the flicker of an orbit. We are 391,995 kilometers away from our starting point, drifting at a lazy 0.97 kilometers per second. But the momentum isn't in our speed. It's in the way four lives are about to begin a conversation that will outlast the mission itself.
Some report of a smell that we don't understand where it's coming from, so we did actually look at our power data.
Picture this. Mission Control just gave us a rare promise of connection, assuring us that the Sol camera will stream video during the flyby, even if the crew has to pause the broadcast when Orion slips behind the moon's shadow for a brief blackout. They explained we'll hear from all four astronauts, Wiseman, Glover, Koch, and Hansen a few times an hour, their voices a human anchor in a sea of data, describing the craters and plains as if they were giving a tour of a house they've only seen from the outside. While the solar wind roars past at 576 kilometers per second, a constant reminder of the storm outside the glass, the crew inside is already treating the camera as a friend, knowing that their words will be the first real narrative ever told from this vantage point, far out where Earth is. Just a memory, and the moon is a living world waiting to be spoken to. We are 76% of the way there, drifting at 0.97 kilometers per second, and the signal delay of exactly 1 second feels less like a lag and more like a heartbeat, keeping the human story alive across the vast silent gap between Houston and this fragile bubble.
And Reed and Victor are both naval aviators and test pilots, and maybe you can explain.
The smell Jeremy Hansen described feels like the first time anyone has ever breathed out of a car that smelled like a campfire, But with the dusty heater smell, Mission Control just confirmed the power and heater data are clean as a pin. So that odd scent is likely just the dust in the cabin reacting to the cabin's temperature rather than a fire. Jerry Rothwell called it a mystery we don't quite understand yet. But the anomaly gas analyzer is ready to take a breath from the air and tell us what exactly is hanging there. A quiet investigation in a cabin drifting at 97 kilometers per second while the solar wind at 576 kilometers per second rips through the void outside. Commander Reed Wiseman is likely listening to this now, wondering if that burning odor is just the universe making sure we know we aren't alone in this metal tube. A phantom smell that floats in the silence of the deep space network, where the signal delay stretches us apart by almost 1 second. We are 2 days and 23 hours into our journey, 76% of the way to that cratered eye in the dark, and even with no anomalous alarms screaming in our faces, the human heart still beats a little faster when the crew admits they don't know what that smell is. A perfect reminder that space is stranger than fiction.
The prime focus, but you said at the in watching the visualization that they would have some time with the...
Picture the moment Mission Control dropped the bombshell. That smell they kept talking about isn't a hazard, just a quirky mechanical whiff from tapes and other materials off-gassing in the dark. It's like finding a dusty sock in your attic, but instead of a room full of dust, it's a pressurized capsule floating 292,000 kilometers away, drifting past the solar wind at 576 kilometers per second, while the crew inside just had a funny conversation about the universe. Dan Lenihan from the Naval Postgraduate School just asked why, and the answer is simple yet profound. The gas analyzers are screaming, "Everything is fine," meaning no hazardous condition. Just the quiet smell of a machine breathing in a vacuum that feels less like a mystery and more like the smell of new paint in a construction site. Commander Reed Wiseman and his crewmates are laughing now, turning a potential panic attack into a story about checking the contents of their own air, a human ritual of curiosity that turns the silence of deep space into a place where we can still smell the mundane. We are 76% of the way there, drifting at just under 1 kilometer per second, and the signal delay of under 1 second means that every time they ask Mission Control to look at the ground testing logs, we are already there with them, listening to the answer that everything is safe. Just a bit unusual.
We'll have people, flying around there doing the great science.
Yeah, I have to dive into the science for a second.
The live feed just hit the perfect note, with Commander Reed Wiseman giving us that rare human confirmation that Orion feels exactly like the simulators, a seamless transfer of experience from the ground to the void at a velocity of 0.97 kilometers/AS. Mission Control is treating this not just as a flight test, but as a crucial dialogue, where they are using Victor Glover's pilot expertise to verify that the vehicle matches our mathematical models down to the millisecond, ensuring the simulators get better while we learn to fly the actual metal tube. I found it fascinating that they are comparing this to the AirPod demo on the ground, because it highlights how these test pilots don't just read manuals, they feel the G-force and the control tug in their bones, translating that physical sensation into data that engineers need to refine their software. We are 352 kilometers away from Earth, drifting in that sweet spot where the moon starts to look less like a dot and more like a destination, while the solar wind roars past at 576 kilometers less, a storm we can feel but never touch. The signal delay stretches to 1 full second, a lifetime between the 4 people inside and the people making sure their lives stay together, yet the feedback loop is tighter than a surgeon's scalpel. As we head toward day 5, the crew isn't just surviving the vacuum. They are teaching their craft, proving that human intuition and machine precision can dance together in a silence so profound it feels heavy.
Tribute. I'm sure people across NASA would say that the Apollo missions got them here to this agency working on this mission.
The words coming through from Houston carry a weight that feels heavier than the distance we are covering at just under 1 kilometer per second.
Who are looking up at that.
Even across the world, but I'm focusing on what we've done space flight in the U.S., right? And there's been a lot of technology development that's kind of spawned off of the things that NASA did when we've taken on these hard missions. And so, 50 years from now, I would hope they would say, boy, are we glad that they went back to the moon and they stayed.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us for today's briefing. We have set up a frequently asked questions page if you do have a question that perhaps wasn't answered today, but we will be joining you again tomorrow for another mission status briefing beginning at 5:30 p.m.
The mission elapsed time shows us nearly 3 days have passed, and now the sheer weight of that 3-day journey hits us in the gut. Mission Control's optimism about the next generation is a strange comfort when we are drifting at 97 kilometers per second, a speed that would spin a person's blood into a solid line if gravity had any say here. Yet the silence inside feels heavier than the promise they keep for the kids 50 years from now. Picture the view through Reed Wiseman's eyes. Earth is no longer a home, but a fragile marble, shrinking in the dark, while the moon sits at 160,000 kilometers away, a distant eye waiting for the story we are writing. The history of our planet is preserved there, they said, waiting in the South Pole's craters that Apollo never touched, a geological record that we are the first to hear the quiet hum of the solar wind at 576 kilometers per second against. We are 76% of the way there. And while the signal delay stretches to exactly 1 second, making conversations feel like letters from the future, the crew isn't just traveling. They are becoming the custodians of a story that starts in Houston and ends in a moonstone. Here's the truth that Mission Control just let slip while wrapping up their broadcast. They aren't just saying good luck anymore. They are projecting a specific hope into the silence, asking 50 years from now if we would be glad that we went back and stayed, not just returned. A deliberate trade-off between the safety of home and the thrill of the void. They spoke of hard missions, of the gritty reality that technology often gets its birthright from failure. And now, as we sit in the 1-second signal delay, feeling the weight of that history pressing against the glass, I wonder if we will be remembered for how we handled the plumbing, or how we looked at the stars. We are 796 times farther away than the International Space Station, a distance where time feels less like a clock and more like a river, carrying us toward a future where 500 years might be the next generation to ask the same question we are answering now.
Using in lieu of the waste management system with the team here on the ground. We expect to regain those communications shortly. In the meantime, we were also tracking the outbound trajectory to We were tracking the outbound trajectory correction burn today that was canceled, as well as the outbound trajectory correction burn yesterday. These were deemed unnecessary as the translunar injection burn put us on a great trajectory to fly around the moon and splash down on flight day 10.
The crew is swapping out the regular toilets for a temporary non-recycling system, which means the water they use to wash themselves is now a one-time resource that can never be reused again. Mission Control just confirmed they ordered a replacement system for this contingency mode. A stark contrast to the endless loop of life on the internet. Per second. This isn't a failure. It's a practical adaptation to a design that just needed a little help from human ingenuity. I find it fascinating that they are treating the water like it's a limited edition artifact, knowing that every drop counts in a system that doesn't yet know how to turn a stream back into a stream. We're 23 times the distance of Earth, and the signal delay of under 1 second is just a whisper between the people in the cabin and the team back home, planning their next move. Mission Control just dropped a bombshell that sounds almost too perfect, telling us the outbound trajectory correction burns were canceled, proving that the translunar injection burn put us on a great trajectory that we didn't need to tweak again. While the solar wind whispers past at 576 kilometers per second, and the flare